graphing intercepts. Remember, we always had an x-intercept and a y-intercept. So we found those places where our line crossed. What do you remember from yesterday? What do you know about every x-intercept? Jack?
0.
Y is 0. What do you know about every y-intercept? X is 0. So it was okay to graph that, but it's kind of a lot of work, agreed? You had to plug in 0 and then solve for x. You had to plug in 0 and solve for y. Slightly annoying. So I'm going to teach you a different way today. Okay? Think back. When graphs were proportional, we're going to skip this question. When graphs were proportional, we're going to skip the first two. Okay? We can use slope, intercept to write equations for these lines. Slope, intercept. You guys remember slope? Feels like forever ago when we did slope. Sure. Okay. This equation that we're going to use today is y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. Yeah. You ask Mr. Bisbee, it's one of the most important things in math. Ask him today. I promise. Mr. Bisbee. Ask Mr. Bisbee. That's your history teacher? Yeah. Okay. M. M is slope. You're going to plug in m in front of x. And b is your y-intercept. B is your y-intercept. So here's the deal. If y is by itself, if you have y equals, you can look at this equation and say, oh, the slope is the number that's in front of x. Oh, the number that doesn't have a letter with it is our y-intercept. So that's some of what you're going to have to do today. Find the slope and the y-intercept. So we look at this first equation. See y is by itself. Okay? When y is by itself, you can just look at that and tell me, blank is my slope and blank is my y-intercept. Your slope is the number in front of your x. What number's in front of x? Ooh, nicely done with the negative sign there. Negative 2/5. Your y-intercept is the number that doesn't have a letter with it. 8. Positive or negative, Marilyn? Positive 8. How did you know it was positive 8? You're right. Bingo. There's no negative sign in front of it. That's so, so, so important. So when y is by itself, the number multiplied with x is your slope, and the number without a variable is your y-intercept. Way easier than plugging in a bunch of zeros like yesterday, agreed? Okay, so what happens over here when y isn't by itself? Divide by what? Can we get y by itself? Yeah, we got to get this x on the other side, right? And then we got to divide by 3, okay? So right now I have 4x. Is 4x positive or negative? Positive, so how would I move it? I would subtract 4x to the other side, 100%. What? I don't have a smart board. We'll talk about this later. Okay, we're subtracting 4x. Focus, guys. Woofda. Drag down your 3y. On that right-hand side, can I put negative 2 and negative 4x together? Yes? Yes. Bryce says yes. Anybody want to argue with him?
No.
Petro, why do you want to argue with him? You want to call my name? Okay, do it. I'm going to argue with Bryce because 4 has an x. Does 2? No. They are not like terms. We cannot put them together. So we're going to drag them down just like they are. Negative 2 and a negative 4x. Now, Zayden absolutely is correct. We have to divide by 3 because we really just want y by itself. Yeah. So when you divide by 3, you have to divide your negative 2 by 3. And you also have to divide negative 4 by 3. This is way different. You're right. Okay. Now, y equals, I have negative 2/3 minus 4/3 x. Remember, the whole goal of this was for us to get y by itself. Y is by itself now, right? So what's my slope and what's my y-intercept? Somebody raise your hand and tell me either one. I'll give you some clues. Your slope is the number that is multiplied in front of x. Your y-intercept is the number that doesn't have a letter with it. Thoughts? No? Other way. This one's what? Negative 4/3. Don't include the x. You're correct in pulling it from in front of the x, but don't bring the x with you. Okay? So your slope is negative 4/3, and your y-intercept is negative 2/3. Now that kind of sucks because they're both fractions, but it's okay. We'll talk about that later. So it's really nice if you can just pull it with the y by itself. I promise you, you won't have very many like that one. Okay? Because who's your favorite math teacher? Good answer. No, you'll be okay. Okay, here's another one for you now. Let's go the other way. Write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. If I tell you the slope is negative 3, and I tell you the y-intercept is negative 4. So this time I'm giving you the information. This is your slope. This is your y-intercept. So the equation we started with was y equals mx plus b. You're keeping your y. You're keeping the equals. What was your slope? Negative 3. Don't forget the x. What's your y-intercept? Negative 4 minus 4. That's it. If I have to write an equation and they give me the slope and the y-intercept, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. Okay. Look at the next one. It's a graph. And it says, write the equation of the line below. We just wrote the equation of the problem up above. Y equals mx plus b. What two things did I have to know to be able to use that equation? What two letters do I have to fill in? M and B. M and B. M is your, slope. We got to find the slope. And B is specifically your y-intercept. Your y-intercept. Okay? Look at the points, the big red dots. Is one of those your y-intercept? Remember, your y-axis runs this way. Okay? Everybody agree that this graph crosses the y-axis at 4. This right here is your y-intercept. Okay? That right there is your y-intercept. Sweet, we have half our equation done. We know B. So now we have to figure out the slope. We've done this. You did this on your quiz, remember? When I gave you a graph and you had to find the slope between 2 points. Jack, what was the most important thing when you're finding the slope between 2 points on a graph? Start next to Weiss's room. Start next to Weiss's room. So we're going here. Slope, remember, is rise over run. So if I start here, do I rise up or rise down? Down. Now, count on your own. Everybody count how far down you have to go silently. Count silently. What'd you get? 8. What'd you get? 8. Anybody else get 8? I got 8. So we went down 8. That brought us to right here. Now do I go left or right? I go right 8 too? Okay. What's down 8 mean though? Negative 8 over 8. Can you simplify that? 8 divided by 8 is what? 1. So really your slope is negative 1. Don't lose the negative though. Don't lose your negative. Okay, everybody take a minute right now. Write the equation on your own. I'm telling you the slope is negative 1. We just figured out the y-intercept is 4, right? Y equals mx plus b. Filling in your slope, fill in your y-intercept, just like this. Write your new, yes you do. Write your new equation, just like we did the problem up above, except for use the new slope and the y-intercept that we just figured out. Y equals, what's your slope? -1. What goes after your slope? X. What's your y-intercept? Is it a +4 or -4? +4. It's a +4. Y equals mx plus b. You're always having a y, you always have an equal, you always have an x. You fill in the slope and the y-intercept. Okay? Flip it over. We're skipping the top one.
+1 and +4.
You want to do that one? It is pretty easy, but oh, your drama. All right, graph the line. In order for us to graph, we have to look at this equation and pull the slope and pull our y-intercept. Remember, you can only pull this information if y is by itself. Is y by itself? Yeah, cool. So where do I find slope? Where do I find slope? You are guessing. Look at your notes. How do you know that? Go back. Where do we say you find slope? The number in front of x. Okay? So look at our equation. What number is in front of x? -3/4. Remember, Miss Hoff tells you to put that negative sign with that top number. Remember that? Addison, stop. Y-intercept, -1. The number without a variable. Okay, so now it wants us to graph this. So write yourself a note. First thing you do is plot the y-intercept. The first thing you do is plot the y-intercept. And I know you all can do this because you did it yesterday. Remember, your y-axis runs this way. So everybody go to that graph, and where are you going to put a number, put a dot on what number? -1. Where do I find -1 on my y-axis? Down 1. Put a dot. -1. Okay, make sure you're starting at the right spot. All right, step 2 is to use the slope. We got to use our slope. And remember, slope is rise over run. And we have -3/4. If I have a -3 on my rise, what direction does that tell me to go? Left, right, across, backwards. How do you know? Rise can go up or down. Run can go left or right. Why down, Jack? Bingo. It's a negative. So we're going down 3. Now, 4 is positive. And Miss Hoff says that because we put the negative with the 3. So on your run, you either go left or right. If you have a +4, which direction do you go? Right 4. Okay, so our slope tells us we're going down 3 and right 4. Put your pencil on your dot. Put your pencil on your dot. Okay, go down 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't put a dot yet. Go right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now put a dot. Down 3, right 4. You should end up here. Then what's nice about Alex? You just click the 2 buttons and it will draw it for you. Oopsies. It'll click, you click your 2 points and it'll graph it for you.
I think we should not.
Okay, I'm going to give you a new equation. Ready? Y equals 5 plus 1/2 x. Silently, everybody tell me the slope and the y-intercept on your paper. On your own. Ms. Hoff gave you a new one. And then I'm going to randomly select somebody. Write your slope, write your y-intercept. Tone. You know which one's your slope or your y-intercept? Do you know which one's the slope or which one's the y-intercept? Which one's which? What are you going to write? What's your slope? In this equation, what's your slope? Where do you find the slope? Nope. Where do you find the slope? Looking at this equation, where do I find the slope? The number in front of the x. What number is in front of x? 1/2. So my slope is 1/2. My y-intercept is the number that doesn't have a letter. What number doesn't have a letter? 5. It's not a letter. Where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? Stop guessing. Thank you. If you wrote this down like I asked you to, the very first thing you do is plot your y-intercept. And what's so crucial is it's got to be on your y-axis. Your y-axis. It has to be on the up and down axis. People screw this up all the time. So on the y-axis, where do I find 5? And it's positive. So which direction do I go? Up. Very good. Okay, so I go up to 5, and you're absolutely right, Tone. It's between the 4 and the 6. Nice observation. Okay. Now, remind yourself, slope is rise over run. Rise can go up or down. Run can go left or right. Is my 1 positive or negative? It's positive. So I'm going to go up 1. Is my 2 positive or negative? Positive. So I'm going to go right 2. So put your pencil on your y-intercept. Go up 1, right 2. Put a dot. Then you will use the line tool to connect these. My line is terrible. Sam's is way better than mine. Yes. I'm going to give you one more. Y equals, we're not going to graph it, 5x minus 3. Silently, tell me the slope, tell me the y-intercept. Bless you. Sarah, you pick one. You pick the slope, you pick the y-intercept. The slope is 5x. One thing, you are absolutely right, it comes in front of x. Do not bring x with you. Okay? Brody, what's my y-intercept? -3. Question for you, nicely done. Question for you. If I had another graph, how do I graph a slope of 5? Or isn't slope rise over run? So how can I write 5 as a fraction of rise over run? Bingo. Good job. I wanted to make sure we talked about that. Okay? 5 over 1. If you give me 2 minutes, I need to adjust your online assignment. Don't click on it until I tell you to. Grab a piece of paper and get logged into Alex, but don't click on the assignment because I'm going to make it shorter for you. Because I'm your favorite.